Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cryptid's Combo Corner. Today we're going to be talking about Anvil Colossus. The concept is pretty straightforward on the surface. Semblance Anvil makes spells cost 2 less. We play a bunch of Prophetic Prisms. Prophetic Prisms make the Metalwork Colossus free. The Sanctum of Ugin gets another Metalwork Colossus. And then we've got a couple ways to win the game aside from beating our opponent's face in with our 10-10s. The first one is we can pick up our Prophetic Prisms with Words of Wind. If we have a Meria out, we can do that infinitely. The second way to win is by sacrificing our 10-10s to mill our opponent. And the third way to win is an infinite loop involving Mortarpod and Metalwork Colossus. Without further ado, let's go ahead and show it off. Okay, this hand has a Semblance Anvil and stuff we keep. And the Sanctum of Ugin. Ooh. Okay, we are really looking for more of these 2-mana artifacts that draw cards so that our Metalwork Colossus can do good things next turn. I'm going to go ahead and cycle this Tranquil Thicket because we have enough lands and all of our stuff is going to be free next turn anyway. Again, at this point we're just looking for a Metalwork Colossus, so we're going to exile the Scrap Trawler and play our cards. Don't you love it when your card draw draws card draw, draws 10-10s that you can play on turn 3. And hey, look at that. Our 10-10 finds us another 10-10. And normally I would just go ahead and put 30 power into play, but I think for the purpose of this, we'll settle for 20 power and also a Scrap Trawler so I can show you the other parts of the combo. Alright, that's a Words of Wind. If I were playing regular Magic the Gathering, I would take this opportunity to attack for 20 damage and win the game. But we're doing combo shenanigans, so instead we're just going to attack for 10. Now we're going to play a Words of Wind. Oh, I messed up. I needed to set an upkeep stop. I mean, we can still do it with the Candy Trail draw, but let this be a lesson to all of those of you that are looking to play this deck. Also, notably, I think there's some weird stuff with auto-yielding. Like, okay, stop yielding. This will become important later. Okay, so we've just made our opponent pick up 2 cards. We'll just draw naturally for a turn. Of course, we find another Colossus, which we can use to find another Colossus. And now we can activate Words of Wind, play Prophetic Prism. Pick up Prophetic Prism, activate Words of Wind, play Prophetic Prism. Activate Words of Wind, play Prophetic Prism. This is the Words of Wind loop. Right now it costs 1 mana every time we loop. If we had a Meria in play, we would also generate 1 mana every time we loop, causing our opponent to pick up all of their permanents. Okay, at this point, again, I could just attack for lethal. But I know one of the trickier combos about this deck. Oh, okay, just kidding. We're going to mill our opponent for 40. And by our opponent, I mean ourselves, because, oh, this is disgusting. Scrap Trawler lets us get back any card from our graveyard. So we can pick up, a couple more draw cards if we want to. And play a Sleeper Dart, just because we can. Sheesh. Okay, here's the Mortarpod, and now I will demonstrate the loop. Not that we need it, because, we are milling our opponent for 40. If we really want to, we can mill our opponent for more by sacrificing some of these artifacts. But I want to demonstrate the Mortarpod loop. Okay, so we sacrifice our Mortarpod to Germ token to deal 1 damage to our opponent. Then we sacrifice our Metalwork Colossus and our Mortarpod to themselves. When Mortarpod goes into the graveyard, we can pick up a Candy Trail, no big deal there. When the Metalwork Colossus goes into the graveyard, we can pick up whatever we want. In our case, we're going to pick up the Mortarpod. So we pick up the Mortarpod using the Scrap Trawler trigger on the Metalwork Colossus from the play, and we pick up the Metalwork Colossus from sacrificing 2 artifacts. Now we can replay the Mortarpod, which gives us another Germ token that we can throw at our opponent for 1 damage. Now we're back to where we started. We have a Metalwork Colossus in the graveyard, a Metalwork Colossus in play, and a Mortarpod in play. We can now sacrifice these 2 to pick up. I'll demonstrate the loop one more time. After that, my fingers would not be happy with me. Okay, Metalwork Colossus, Mortarpod, sacrifice, deal damage, loop, add infinitum. And that is the Anvil Colossus deck. Play all of your Prophetic Prisms for free, bounce all of your opponents with stuff with Words of Wind, mill them out with Altar of Dementia, or deal infinite damage with Mortarpod. Happy brewing!